The roar tore through the African savanna like a cry of war. Nala, a lioness with golden fur and a deep scar on her left flank, ran in desperation across the plains of the Serengeti. Her paws thundered against the dry earth as her amber eyes scanned every bush, every stone, every shadow. She was searching for something that no longer existed. 3 days earlier, her 2 cubs had disappeared. Nala had left them hidden beneath a twisted acacia tree while she hunted a gazelle to feed them. When she returned, she found only tire tracks in the soil and stains of dried blood on the leaves. Human hunters. The pain that exploded in her chest at that moment was something no prey had ever caused her. Since then, Nala had wandered aimlessly. She did not eat. She did not drink. She only walked, guided by a void that consumed every fiber of her body. Her pride had abandoned her. Lone lionesses rarely survive, but she did not care. Without her cubs, living or dying were just words without meaning. It was at dusk on the 3rd day that she heard the sounds. Thin, high-pitched, desperate howls. They came from a rocky ravine covered in thorny bushes. Nala approached slowly, her hunting instincts awakening for the first time in days. The smell that invaded her nostrils completely confused her. It was not the scent of the savanna's usual prey. It was something different, wild, foreign. When she pushed the bushes aside with her head, Nala froze. Before her, huddled in a crevice between the rocks, were 4 furry pups trembling with cold. Their pointed ears were far too large for their small heads. Their muzzles were long and dark, and their still closed eyes revealed them as newborns. They were wolves. Ethiopian wolf pups, lost far from the northern mountains. Nala's instinct screamed to attack. Wolves were competitors, invaders, threats. But something deeper paralyzed her. As she looked at those helpless creatures, all she saw were her own cubs. The same fragility. The same helplessness. The same desperate need for protection. She took a step forward. Then another. The pups howled louder, sensing her presence. And for the first time in 3 days, Nala felt something beyond pain. If you are enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Leave a comment telling us what you thought and which city or country you are watching from. Nala lowered her head slowly, sniffing the small furry bodies. The wolf pups trembled violently, their tiny mouths opening in search of milk. They were too weak to move. Their sunken bellies revealed days without food. If she did nothing, they would die before dawn. The lioness looked around. No sign of adult wolves. No recent tracks. Those pups had been abandoned, or their parents had been killed. Just like hers. The connection was impossible to ignore. Nala licked the first pup carefully. He was so small he fit entirely in her mouth. She could crush him with a single movement of her jaws. But she did not. With a gentleness no animal would witness and believe, Nala picked up the first pup by the scruff of the neck and carried him out of the ravine. Then she returned. Picked up the second. Then the third. And finally the fourth. Each trip was a conscious choice against everything nature had taught her. Wolves were enemies. But in that moment, they were only babies in need of a mother. She took them to an isolated cave she had known since she was young, hidden among enormous rocks and protected by dense bushes. Inside, Nala lay down on her side and positioned the 4 pups against her belly. Her body was still producing milk from the cubs she had lost. The little wolves instinctively began to nurse, their tiny paws pressing against her. For the first time in days, Nala closed her eyes and felt something like peace. But the peace did not last long. At the following dawn, distant roars echoed across the savanna. Nala recognized them immediately. It was Kato, the dominant male lion of that region, patrolling his territory with a pride. If he discovered the pups, he would kill them without hesitation. Male lions eliminate any cub that is not theirs. And wolves would be tolerated even less. Nala rose slowly, leaving the little ones sleeping in a tight cluster. She needed to act fast. She needed to hunt food for herself to continue producing milk. She needed to erase any trail that could lead to the cave. And she needed to decide something that terrified her. Could she really protect 4 wolf pups alone? Against hyenas, leopards, vultures, and lions? Against nature itself, which had programmed her to destroy, not to save? Nala looked at the pups one last time before leaving. Their little ears twitched even in their sleep. And she knew the answer. She would do the impossible. The following weeks transformed Nala into something no lioness had ever been. She hunted only at dusk, when the pups slept deeply. She dragged her prey into the cave, eating quickly so she could return to nursing them. Her body grew thinner, her ribs became visible, but the milk continued to flow. The 4 wolf pups grew surprisingly fast. In 2 weeks, their eyes opened. They were blue like the sky after a storm. Nala watched in fascination as they explored the cave with clumsy steps, tripping over their own disproportionate paws. She named them silently in her mind. Zuri, the curious female who always led the explorations. Tao, the sturdy male who already showed protective instincts. Nia, the smallest and most cautious. And Juma, the reckless adventurer who constantly got himself into trouble. But teaching wolves was completely different from teaching lions. When Nala tried to show them how to hide in tall grass, they simply rolled and played. When she tried to teach them to roar, they only howled melodiously. Their natures were opposite. And this began to worry her in ways she had never imagined. One afternoon, while the pups were playing near the entrance of the cave, Nala noticed something strange. Tao suddenly stopped, his pointed ears raised, focused on something in the distance. He let out a soft howl, a sound Nala had never heard before. Seconds later, the other 3 responded in unison, creating a natural, instinctive harmony. They were communicating. Not like lions. Like wolves. Nala felt a tightness in her chest. She could feed them, protect them, and love them. But she could not teach them to be who they truly were. They needed a pack. They needed to learn how to hunt as a group, to howl under the moon, to understand the complex hierarchy of their own species. Things she could never pass on. That night, while the 4 slept nestled against her, Nala made a silent decision. She would raise these pups until they were strong enough. And then she would do the hardest thing a mother can do. Let them go. But before that, she needed to make sure they survived long enough to have that choice. And Kato was getting closer. His territorial markings appeared each morning closer to the cave. The confrontation was inevitable. The confrontation happened on a suffocating morning. Nala was returning from a hunt when she heard the desperate howls of the pups. Her heart raced. She dropped the prey and ran at full speed, dust exploding beneath her paws. When she reached the cave, the scene froze her blood. Kato stood at the entrance, his dark mane swaying in the wind, his eyes fixed on the 4 wolf pups huddled against the rocky wall. Zuri tried to protect her younger siblings, growling with her still shrill and harmless voice. Kato was not alone. 3 lionesses from the pride accompanied him, watching with morbid curiosity. The lion turned slowly when he noticed Nala's arrival. His eyes met hers, and in that moment, a silent question crossed the air. "Why are you protecting wolves?" Nala did not answer with words. She positioned herself between Kato and the pups, lowering her body into a fighting stance. Her claws extended. The scar on her flank seemed to pulse. She knew she could not defeat him. Kato was bigger, stronger, and had reinforcements. But she also knew she would fight until her last breath. Kato roared, a deafening sound that made the rocks vibrate. It was a warning. A final chance for Nala to retreat. The 3 lionesses moved closer, forming a semicircle. The pups howled behind Nala, sensing the imminent danger. Then something unexpected happened. Tao, the strongest of the pups, stepped out from behind Nala. His little legs trembled, but he walked straight toward Kato. The pup stopped a few steps from the massive lion and did something extraordinary. He did not attack. He did not flee. He simply lay down on his back in a gesture of total submission, exposing his vulnerable throat. It was the natural behavior of a wolf pup in the presence of a dominant alpha. Kato tilted his head, confused. He had never seen prey surrender in that way. The other 3 pups followed Tao, each one lying down and exposing their bellies. They did not see Kato as a predator. They saw him as an authority to be respected. The great lion sniffed Tao. Then Zuri. Nia. Juma. His nostrils caught the unmistakable scent. These pups carried Nala's smell. They were hers. Kato raised his head, looked at Nala once more, and did something no one expected. He turned and walked away. 6 months had passed since that day. The 4 wolves grew strong and healthy under Nala's protection. Zuri developed a sharp intelligence, always the first to detect danger. Tao became the fierce guardian of his siblings. Nia learned to hunt small rodents with surgical precision. And Juma, the eternal adventurer, discovered trails and territories even Nala did not know. But the moment Nala had always known would come finally arrived. During one of Juma's explorations, he returned agitated, repeatedly howling toward the north. Nala followed him to a high point and saw it. A pack of Ethiopian wolves was crossing the savannah in migration, their howls echoing like ancestral songs. The four pups froze when they heard those sounds. Something inside them awakened. Tao howled in response. Then Zuri, Nia, Juma. Their voices intertwined perfectly with those of the distant pack, as if they had always belonged to that chorus. Nala watched in silence as her adopted children looked at her, then at the pack, then back at her again. The doubt in their eyes broke her heart. But she knew what needed to be done. With a gentle movement of her head, Nala softly nudged Tao toward the other wolves. Then Zuri, Nia, and finally Juma, who resisted the longest, repeatedly licking the lioness's face. The four descended the hill slowly, looking back every few steps. When they reached the pack, the adult wolves surrounded them, sniffing, recognizing them as their own. They were accepted immediately. Nala remained at the top of the hill until the pack disappeared over the horizon. Her chest ached, but it was a different pain from the one she had felt months earlier. This was the pain of someone who loves enough to let go. Years later, hunters reported a strange legend. They spoke of a solitary lioness who never attacked wolves, and of a pack of wolves that never fled from lionesses. They said that sometimes, at dusk, they could hear wolf howls answered by soft lion roars. Some called it impossible. Others, a miracle. But the truth was simpler. It was love. The kind of love that knows no species, instinct, or nature. Only choice. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Tell us in the comments what you thought and where you are watching from.